Hello Targar friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Orc Mode workout. And today was Dynamic Effort Bench Press Day. Now, people love it when I do the change for this on the Orc Mode. Well, some of you love it, some of you don't. So I think I might unmute these. I normally have these muted, and I might start doing just the sound in the background, just turn on a little bit so you guys can hear the change and hear the sounds and everything. Just got to find a good balance between it. But first week in this wave with chains. Now, one of the things I've noticed messing with the different max work, and especially messing with the pin presses, what have I told you guys in the past? That pin work can be valuable for finding grooves. Now, partials on pins are bad for increasing strength, but they can help you find bar paths. And one of the things I noticed when I started messing with doing that dead stop pressing off of pins, I am much stronger the lower down I get on my chest. And it's not even a range of motion thing because of the arch. It has to do with my levers are better. I get more pop. And so I did my speed work lower down today, and I think I'm going to do all of my benching with it lower on my chest and actually over the stomach. I seem to get better leverages, and I've noticed I did get a little bit of, I've talked about that little bit of pull in my pecs and my left delt sometimes from the speed work with the new form to where I'm arching with the feet flat. I noticed I didn't really get it today when I went further down. Seems to have corrected that issue. And these felt better, they felt different. So I think with me using an arch now, not a super arch, but there's definitely an arch there, with the different angle involved and the footing different, it feels better when I'm just a little lower down. And when I press a little bit towards my feet, I don't let the bar necessarily drift towards my face to the same degree. Because I've noticed even when I'm doing the floor pressing that it's actually more difficult if I let the bar drift towards my face even on a floor press. I seem to just get a stronger lockout further down, especially when I have an arch. And it might just be an issue of leverages. So we'll see how this helps my overall benching. But these were pretty fast today. I felt like they were slow as I'm doing them. But now as I'm watching the footage, I'm looking at it going, oh, these are reasonably fast. These are reasonably fast. Somewhat happy with it, and I think I'm working with the right percentages for now. Now, obviously, they can look even faster sometimes with the bands, but the bands create a better myotatic reflex because you get that over speed eccentric, and then it explodes you out of the bottom better. So the chains don't tend to be for me quite as fast as the bands, but we need to work on it. But I feel like working with 40%, they're going 40, 45, 50 instead of trying to do in 50, 55, 60. Definitely a difference. And I've noticed that watching my different clients, because some of my clients don't have chains. And so they have to do some of their waves totally raw for their speed work. As I watch them, I've been observing that even with the raw stuff, there's a difference in how fast my guys can move relative to a percentage of their max. Very individual based, right? You've got to do slightly different percentages based upon the person. And there are plenty of coaches who mess with this who say that winning is talked about that a lot, actually. So just an observation. I seem to need to go a hair lighter to really get the best bar speeds. And I'm not even the lightest. There are guys who do lighter than me. Winning does. So no one's going to say it's because winning's got bad genetics and not explosive. Obviously, neither one of those is true. He just finds that that's where his data shows it for him. He gets the best kinetic energy in terms of just total acceleration. So I'm doing the same thing, realizing that, look, this is where I get good speeds. This is kind of my sweet spot for the intensity level, because that's what this is about. It is about force generation, and speed work needs to be truly fast. Like, I don't try to overlap anything anymore. My max effort work is max effort work. And if I miss reps, I miss reps, right? We don't make any qualms about it. It's not a big deal because I'm going to rotate exercises. I don't worry about missing a deadlift because I'm not going to hit a max deadlift of any type again for 2 weeks. So it's not a big deal if my recovery gets hit a little bit. In fact, I'm training just fine today. It happened to me on Tuesday, right? Got a deadlift in, and then when we went for the heaviest one, I couldn't quite lock it. And it just dropped. It wasn't even a grinder. I just had nothing left. So, I'm not too fatigued. Did Metcon work yesterday. Speed work's good. You just keep moving forward. Speed work needs to be fast, and volume work needs to be real volume. Needs to create pretty deep fatigue. It means you need to train hard. It means the reps need to be fairly high. You need to be going close to failure. quality volume. So that's the name of the game. Now, I will say this is a little more total pressing volume than I have been doing on my dynamic days, but I've built work capacity from my Metcon work, or GBP, however we want to call it. I've been building work capacity. So I'm applying that to the training volume. Why wouldn't I? If I've got better work capacity and better recovery, use it to gain muscle. And we know we need to gain muscle. I need to body composition matters. I need to keep building muscle and keep losing fat if I want to get strong. Right? Max work needs to be truly heavy. Speed work needs to be truly fast. And the volume work needs to get me thick as peanut butter. So we're doing 5x10 on 3 different lifts. Now, I went with the floor press with the straight bar today. I've been doing that. I did it on Monday after max work with the football bar, and that felt good and everything, but I felt like, let me go ahead and mess with the straight bar today. Let me just get some in. Good carry over to the bench, and it's still a fantastic exercise, right? It's a great exercise. And it's one of those things with the volume on it, because you're forced to use a lighter weight than even the same rep work on benching, it's easier to recover from. But it also hammers your chest, your lower chest, upper chest, everything. Even when you use a little arch like this, definitely notice you feel more of the entire chest, right? Using a fairly wide grip. Coming down, keeping the scapula tight, and then exploding out of the bottom. Control it on the way down and explode on the way up. Well, I did 195 for the first set, and it was heavy, but not that heavy. So I went up to 205. And 205 starts to accumulate. For sets of 10, honestly, it wasn't a joke. I guess it'd be one thing if you're going for an all-out 10er at max, but this is when you start digging in multiple sets of 10 after doing speed work, it was fairly fatiguing. This was difficult. Like, I don't think I could do like 14 or 15 with this. And I think as I got near the end, the last 2 sets, I could have maybe squeezed out one more rep, maybe. So it got a nice deep fatigue, and it's very chest dominant press. Obviously triceps are used, front delts are used heavily. Very, very good chest builder. And you have to, because again, you have to fire the chest so hard at the bottom. It's like a deadlift for your chest. It really is. Very similar. So you get that dead stop training. And I need that, because where am I weakest right now? I'm weak off the chest on the benching. That's why I'm messing with some of the pin presses, right? Do a little bit of pin pressing type stuff for maxes. Do more floor pressing, because that'll get me powerful. Obviously, the speed work matters. I've got to get stronger off the chest, off the bottom. And for me, because I can touch my chest on the floor press, and in this case, because I didn't really push myself all the way up. Some of them it touched, some of them I'm a half inch away. But we're right there off the chest, which is where I tend to slow. So this forces me to get strong through there to hypertrophy the muscle fibers related, because that's what we're dealing with. People would say, well, you're using a lightweight. This is a bunch of sets of 10. Well, because we are hypertrophying the fibers with a heavier load on them, the most tension is on the fibers that have to fire from that position. Therefore, we're putting a hypertrophy emphasis on them. Well, if the muscle fibers are hitting limit sets of 10 through that angle and having to fire maximally through that angle near the end of the set, they're building a lot of fatigue. They're going to hypertrophy. So those muscle fibers, when I need them on the 1 rep max to power me out of that, they're going to be there. And a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle, particularly once you've trained it to do maxes. Right? It has more strength potential, but because we max every week, we're building the strength potential. So yeah, these felt pretty good, but they were pretty fatiguing. I'll be honest, like overhead pressing was tough today, because this was a little heavier than I floor pressed last time. I managed to get my overhead pressing just fine last time for 5 sets of 10. Wasn't a big deal. But I also used the football bar after doing a max bench that was 20 pounds lighter than what I've got here. All right, these were harder, more challenging sets, and I did 10 sets of speed bench. Overhead pressing was hard. I had to rest pause the last couple reps on every set. And I think when we got to set 5, I think I only got 8 reps. I'm calling it 5x10 because it should have been a 5x10. But I think what happened when I get to it, people are like, what do you mean you didn't hit failure? It doesn't appear to you that I hit failure. Because when I went to lift it off the bottom on the 8th rep, it didn't move. And that's what I mean. I got to the bottom and it just looks like I finished the set and stopped, but I pushed and the bar didn't move. And if I can't push the bar even 1 inch out of the bottom, that's failure. The weight didn't move. When you push to do another rep and the weight just sits there, that's muscle failure. It doesn't have to fail midway through a rep to be muscle failure. You can fail at the bottom of a rep, right? You can fail before you even start. And that's pretty much what happened. So people are saying, well, what's up with these exercises? This is just me getting a complete everything. It is a obvious bias towards my weak points, but I am making sure that I am hitting my maximum pretty much recoverable volume for my entire pec, my front delt, and to some extent my side delt with the overhead pressing, and my triceps, with a bias on the triceps towards the heads that move the bench the most, right? The lateral and medial head are getting a slight bias in the work. Now the long head's obviously getting work because I'm doing high volume overhead pressing. I'm doing like 10 sets of this every week, 5 on both days, right? Long head work in there, and I do a ton of chin-ups. That works the long head. So this day needs to be biased towards the ones that matter most on the bench. So we do, this is going to be, obviously, we're doing mostly chest with the floor press. It's hitting front delt quite a bit and triceps, but it's biased towards the chest. This, obviously, is getting the triceps, upper chest, front delts, with some bias towards the overall shoulders. So we're fatiguing all of these muscles. All 3 of these movements work. The pecs, the delts, and the triceps. But I have a stronger emphasis on each one and in a way that carries over to my bench more. Because the strict press also for a lot of people is a really good starting and midpoint exercise for the bench, right? A lot of raw powerlifting coaches note that. And strict standing presses just improve your overall athleticism. They're just a good exercise for athletes, right? And I'm trying to be as explosive as I can on these. I'm not worried as much about trying to follow through and get the best mobility. I struggle with overhead mobility. And quite frankly, for me to really get it correct, because I have really wide collarbone. It should be obvious to anyone looking. Anyone wants to argue otherwise, watch me stand in the rack. That's part of the reason my back and stuff looks so big. It's part of my structure. I just have wide shoulders genetically. It's my bone structure, not my delts. It's hard for me to get good overhead mobility with a narrow grip. I have to go wider grip, really. But the wider grip isn't as good for shoulder health. It's not as good for power out of the bottom. So I'm not concerned with it. If I really wanted to get good at locking overhead, I would probably go wider. But even for me, it's so much shoulder mobility work involved. And it leaves my entire shoulders really sore when I have done it in the past. When I work on it enough and then work on really locking hard, it becomes difficult. I would probably mess with it more if I was going to go do a strength lifting meet. But for now, it's serving my purpose of it is working the entire shoulder girdle. It's a good standing press, a lot of tricep, a lot of upper chest, making sure my delts are getting strong. Right? Good athletic exercise. And I'm trying to be as explosive as I can with it. And then we finish up with the JM floor press. These were hard today. I didn't think I was going to make it through these, because this is more pressing volume than I'm used to, and I'm trying to use the heaviest weight I have worked up to on these. So relative to Monday's pressing session, this weight was a struggle. I think on the last 3, actually the last 4 sets, the last rep was really hard. I don't think I had another rep in the tank, and that's one reason I'm pausing longer at the bottom as I go. It's just to give me a little bit of rest pause work. But the other perk, I'm weaker out of the bottom of the bench right now, and I do a ton of accommodating resistance to build lockout strength. A lot of my supplemental lifts need to be geared towards the bottom. This helps. Even though it's extremely tricep dominant, it makes the triceps fire really hard out of the bottom. Right? Forces the triceps to fire really hard out of the bottom. You feel them. So the entire chest has to fire hard in the first couple inches on the floor press. The front delts have to fire hard to get you out of the bottom of the standing press. And then the triceps have to fire really hard to get you out of the bottom of this JM floor press. So all 3 of these are a big compound movement that puts a lot of size on you that puts an emphasis on each of the three muscles separately, contracting maximally out of the bottom of the exercise to get you powered through. Okay, so I fixed my weak link in my bench while just getting thick and strong all the way around. Because these are exercises that'll make you bigger and stronger. Like, there's no doubt about that. You train enough workload on these three exercises, they're going to thicken you up. I'm just doing it with some specificity. Get bigger and thicker. Get thick as peanut butter, because it's the good kind of fat, baby. And the last set was hard. The last couple of reps were pretty difficult, but I got them. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.
Oh.